Down the numbers, our political analyst, the New York Post state political columnist, Fred Dicker, joining us from Albany, as he does almost every night, I would say. And Fred, it's interesting. We've been talking a little bit about how Republicans are doing well. Chris Gibson is doing very well, and there doesn't seem to have been any change over those 7 weeks. 1 percentage point really doesn't seem to be significant.
Because this is probably a $6 or $7 million race over the last 2 months. Sean Eldridge, with a great deal of money, $4 million of his own money put into this race, hasn't moved more than a point or two in the 7 weeks, as you noted. His money's not having any impact at all, partly because Chris Gibson has raised several millions of dollars himself, also because he's well known. And as we've talked about before, this is sort of a case study of a carpetbagger, and I don't mean to be overly harsh, but there is no doubt that Sean Eldridge is not a native of the district. He only recently moved in. He doesn't have any special accomplishments. He's been spreading money around, money that he didn't even make on his own. He got from his spouse, trying to basically buy the election, and it isn't working because he's up against a real formidable opponent, an incumbent congressman who's a retired Army colonel, PhD from Cornell. He really has a record, and he's a native of the area. He's from Kinderhook. So it was a very difficult task to begin with. I think the thinking on Eldridge's part was that his money could make up the difference, and it's obvious that it hasn't been able to.
Let's talk a little bit then about the statewide race with the governor in Astorino.
Yeah.
Good news and bad news for Astorino in this district.
It really is pretty amazing. The southern portion of the district down in Dutchess County or Ulster County, pretty Democratic, so there's a lot of support there for the governor. The more northern part is more Republican, but that doesn't tell the whole story. We're seeing in this district, in a microcosm, what we saw last week in a statewide Siena poll around the whole state, and that is a massive gender gap. The numbers are, I've never seen anything like it. For instance, Astorino is supported 2-to-1 by men. 50% of men want Astorino, only 25% of men want the governor. The rest presumably are undecided. On the other hand, in terms of the governor's support amongst women, 48% of women say they want the governor, only 30% want Astorino. It's a huge gap. Astorino has closed the gap in this race. He's ahead by 1 point. And in other races we're seeing around the state, but it's still not yet good enough to really put him in striking distance of the governor.
That's interesting. Maybe at some other time we can talk a little bit about why that gender gap. I wonder, we know Cuomo has made a big push for women, and apparently it's paying off. So
absolutely so. It's being reinforced. They knew it was there, and they're just trying to make it wider, and they seem to be succeeding.
All right, we'll talk again. Thank you, Fred. Fred, of course, on the radio, live from the state capitol every weekday morning. It's 10 to 11 o'clock on Talk 1300 AM.